Well, welcome to Kansas City University's first virtual Alumni Town Hall. Boy, I wish it was under better circumstances, that's for sure. But thank you. I appreciate you all joining us here this evening. But more importantly, thank you for all you do for Kansas City University and all you do for the communities you serve. You're really the best ambassadors for our university, for the College of Osteopathic Medicine, and for our profession. I want to thank all of our alums who are working on the front lines. Some of you are in harm's way fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, in fact, some of our alums have made the ultimate sacrifice. We just received word again this evening that one of our alums practicing in New Jersey has passed away from the infection. I've got to let you know, I am so grateful for your commitment to all of our citizens all across the country and to our mission of the university for improving the well-being of the communities we serve each and every day. You know, some of the people have asked, how did we respond so quickly to this pandemic? And I wanted to share with you some of the things the university has been working on really over the last 7 or 8 years that has given us some of the flexibility to be able to respond to this crisis that no one really expected. You know, we've had significant strategic growth over the last 7 or 8 years that has allowed us to build needed infrastructure for the university and has positioned us to weather a bit of a financial storm that has come from this pandemic. You know, but throughout all of our preparations, we've found a clear approach that's based upon a university-wide dedication to preparation, the use of information, and action. We had a crisis management team that was formed 5.5 years ago. That crisis management team worked on a regular basis, going through tabletop exercises. You know, did we plan for a pandemic? No, we didn't plan for a pandemic, but we planned for crises such as a tornado hitting the campus, or even a terrorist attack. And through that planning, we had exercises in which our academic and administrative sides of the house could respond in a moment's notice. In addition, over the last 5 years, we moved most of our computing operations to cloud-based computing. And that cloud-based computing has allowed us to work all of our systems from at home. In addition, over the last 3 or 4 years, we switched all of our employees, faculty and staff, from desktop computers to laptop computers. So when the crisis hit, we were able to pick up our laptops, which is sitting in front of me here, and we were able to go to our homes. And really, we were able to transition in very short order. Now, I know on this call this evening, most of the alums are alums of the College of Osteopathic Medicine. I have to tell you that the College of Osteopathic Medicine team, our faculty, our staff, our administrators, have really been preparing for advanced technology within the curriculum with the opening of our new building, which actually was completed in March, but we haven't moved into yet because of the pandemic. The Center for Medical Education Innovation utilizes virtual reality, augmented reality, and other technology. And our faculty, staff, and administrators have been working hard to inculcate that into the curriculum. So it was a very easy move to transition off of the campus and go to online education. I know that Dean D'Agostino and Dean White are going to share some of those transition points when they have a chance to talk in just a moment. You know, our response to the pandemic was fairly immediate. I activated the crisis management team the first week in March. And as we watched the mounting impact of the pandemic across this country, we made the first decision in the state of Missouri to close our campuses for safety. The students were about to return from spring break, and we just felt that that posed too much of a safety threat for all of the students, but also for the faculty and staff. So we went to online education within minutes of that decision. What have my days been like since this started? I have multiple meetings on my laptop, either Zoom or LifeSize or Skype or FaceTime or other various apps each and every day. We meet as a team on a regular basis. The various teams meet on a regular basis as well. In addition, I have weekly, if not daily, national, state, and local meetings with organized medicine, with the State Department of Higher Education, with the State Health Department. Early in April, the federal government made access to the FDA, the CDC, and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services available to physician leaders. However, by the middle of April, access to that means of communication was greatly reduced. I also speak to my counterparts on a weekly basis, the chancellors of the state systems in Missouri, as well as Kansas. And in fact, I spoke with the chancellor of the University of Missouri, Kansas City, just this afternoon about some of the challenges that they're facing. We've had regular communications on a weekly, sometimes daily basis that goes out to our campus, our students, as well as our faculty and staff. In addition, your Kansas City University team have been a resource of information for our lay communities as well. I've written 4 op-ed pieces, 2 for the Joplin Globe, 1 for the Kansas City Star, and tomorrow there'll be 1 in the Kansas City Business Journal. In addition, your Dean of the College of Osteopathic Medicine, Executive Dean Darren D'Agostino, has been a bit of a superstar on television here in Kansas City. He has actually his own program time twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Darren, I'm going to give you a little bit of a plug, and you can share some of that experience with the group in just a minute. But he's been a resource for the Kansas City community. He's also held a number of live interviews for the Joplin community on television down there as well. In addition, this week, our provost, Dr. Ed O'Connor, has been an expert on the local National Public Radio station here in Kansas City, talking about everything that goes into reopening a university campus after such a pandemic. In addition, I was very proud. I had exercised every single day after we went into working from home. Every day at 5:30, I went for a bike ride. I had done almost 360 miles of biking since the pandemic started, until last week when I had a little bit of a mishap, but I'm recovering okay. But that's how I've tended to spend some of the off time from my COVID prison here at home. As you can see behind me, that's the door to our laundry room, and I'm responsible for putting the laundry from the washing machine in the dryer as soon as I finish my report here. Also, I wanted to report back to this group that we've had our second pandemic graduation ceremony. I hope some of you watched 2 weeks ago when the class of 2020 graduated virtually. This was the first such graduation ceremony since the pandemic of 1918. We actually graduated a class in 1918. We had 3 students in that graduating class. That class went out to treat patients during that influenza pandemic of 1918. So this class had 2 special graduation speakers, Dr. Ali Khan. Dr. Khan is the dean of the public health program at the University of Nebraska. He also wrote the book 3 years ago, The Next Pandemic. And the next pandemic talked about an event that we're having, just like we're having right now. Dr. Khan was excellent. The student feedback was very, very positive. In addition, we had a special guest speaker for our graduation ceremony. It was the newest Hall of Famer, former tight end from the Kansas City Chiefs, Tony Gonzalez, made a special appearance and wished our science and medical students well. It was a fun time. It wasn't the ideal graduation for any of us, but I'm very, very proud of our team from University Relations, from the faculty and staff of both colleges. You really made this a special event. If you haven't seen the graduation ceremony, I invite you to take a look. It's on YouTube, and you can find the link on our commencement page at KCU's homepage. In addition, our plans are still on track for our Kansas City University College of Dental Medicine. We welcomed our founding dean, Dr. Linda Neeson, who joined the team at the end of January. She did not expect this type of challenge with her transition. In fact, she's still living in her home in Dallas, Texas, but she is working to complete the self-study, which will be submitted in just about 10 days. We plan to go forward. We've had significant philanthropic support for our dental program with the fact we've raised almost $30 million in pledges, gifts, and cash for that program in little more than a year and a quarter, year and a half. You know, our students need our help and our support right now. You know, Kansas City University, our vision statement is to become the most student-focused health science university in the nation. And to do that, we have to always try to maintain our forward thinking towards our students and towards helping them achieve their goals. We had planned on a tuition increase. In fact, we had messaged the campus, and we had budgeted for a 3% tuition increase in early February. But we decided the financial challenges that our students are seeing right now warranted us to take a look at our budget and walk that back. and we froze the tuition for next year for all students in all programs at the 2020 tuition level. Now, going into this year, we're one of the 10th least expensive private medical schools in the United States. And I'm sure that we will become one of the 5th or 6th least expensive for fiscal year 2021. But we felt that it was important to curtail some of the expenses for our students because they have a lot of uncertainty in their lives right now. In addition, our team from finance looked long and hard at the Federal CARES Act and was able to identify direct student funding. In fact, we were able to cut checks. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was from the federal government, approximately $168 for each and every student enrolled within the university. And look, it wasn't a lot, but those funds can help with a couple weeks worth of groceries. KCU has also started a COVID-19 response fund. And I want to thank all of you out there who've already donated. We've identified 3 key areas of focus. First and foremost being that of student hardship. Next being technology, to support technology for online education for classes that may have to be taken by students this semester and next semester online. And then the third was to support a named professorship in virology and pandemic response. So Jane Lampo, our Vice President for Institutional Advancement, will explain a little bit more about these 3 KCU specific response funds in a few minutes. But I want to turn this over to Jane right now. Jane's going to talk with you, and then Dr. D'Agostino, Dr. Bob White from the graduate school, and Alex Hopkins from your alumni office will also speak to the group, and I'll come back and talk with you in a little bit. So I think at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Jane Lampo. Jane.
Thank you, Dr. Hahn, and hello, everyone. I too want to welcome you to our first ever Alumni Town Hall tonight, and thank you for spending some time with us this evening. Our goal for the Town Hall tonight is to take this opportunity to engage with you in a way different than we have before, not through social media or emails or magazines or letters, but to try this new virtual way of gathering with you and to communicate with you about all the things that we are doing at KCU. I hope you're proud of your alma mater. And we especially wanted to talk to you about what we're doing in response to the pandemic. Some of you submitted questions beforehand, and we will answer those towards the end of the town hall. But if you have questions as we go along with our presentations, please use your chat feature at the bottom of the screen and submit questions. And we will try to respond to as many as time permits. If we run out of time, then we will seek another means to respond to these questions and send to all of our alumni in the coming weeks. As Dr. Hahn said, several members of our leadership team are here tonight to speak to you. So let me first introduce to you our superstar that Dr. Hahn mentioned, our newest TV personality, Dr. Darren D'Agostino, who is the Executive Dean of the College of Medicine and Vice President for Public Affairs. So Dr. D'Agostino, please share with us some of your comments.
Thank you, Jane. I'd like to say that it was all the information I was giving that got attention, but in actuality, it was the 2 tennis rackets behind me. A lot of questions are coming out on social media. My wife is friends with a bunch of professional tennis players, and those were actually original signed tennis rackets. But In all honesty, the media appearances have been very, very important, I think, for our community, both in Kansas City and in Joplin. The questions have progressively gotten more complex, very simply because we have some very informed people out in the community that are asking some pretty sophisticated questions, along with the other questions. We're going into a holiday weekend. Should I go tubing with my family? So I think what's important about this is that the messages that we're sending from Kansas City University are making it out there to our communities. And I think it's important that we are recognized as leaders in sharing information that is unbiased, scientifically based, and important for everything that we do, both in our daily lives, but also in our professional lives. If it's okay, I'd like to share my screen and put some slides up for everybody. So if you give me 1 second here, I'm going to...
As Darren's putting that up, I want to also say that for your Kansas City University and your College of Osteopathic Medicine, for the news stations to come to us for expert opinion says a lot about our leadership of the COM, our faculty within the COM, but the impact that we've had in our community. So I'm very, very proud of Darren. I'm very, very proud of his team. So I'm going to give you a virtual round of applause, Darren. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. So as we walk through this, unfortunately, I can't do the full presentation in the screen, so you'll see some of my slides on the side. But I think as long as everybody can see these, Jane, I'll ask you to give me a nod if this is large enough for everybody to review. Does it look large enough for you? Okay. All right, so we'll move through. There are a number of things that are going on, but I thought what would be important would be to share with you some of the efforts that the school put forth to make sure we didn't miss a beat at all with our education, getting our current graduates to meet the requirements for graduation, and to be able to take care of our third years in clerkships so that they would also not fall behind, and we would have to figure out how to make up experiences for them. So some of the things that we did initially, you can see on this curriculum and delivery slide, where we basically transitioned to something called emergency remote teaching. We did that very rapidly. And emergency remote teaching is probably the lowest hanging fruit in terms of distance education. We converted 100% of the remaining classes to online learning modules. And we did that with both recordings and in some cases, live teaching. The live teaching is a more difficult task, but we had some champions that really wanted to move that forward. We revised 100% of our syllabi. Now this was actually a Herculean task, and our Comet team had to spend hours identifying the changes that we made in the curriculum so that we could, in the future, demonstrate to the COCA that we did not miss a beat. We actually created a comparison chart within each syllabus to show where we were and where we went after COVID hit and we had to close the campus. We converted our pathology lectures and our art observation and medicine course to live remote teaching, and these actually, particularly the art observation and medicine course, became the focus of attention for teaching the rest of our faculty how to do this in a live format. We have daily meetings with our faculty. Every noon we get together and we talk about the tools and the objectives and the different things that we can do so that if one person is struggling with technology, someone who is a champion can help them out. We are continuing with our virtual reality projects. We have 2 pilot projects that are actually in the works right now. Just a few days ago, we finished recording in 360 degrees a lecture that we'll be giving with virtual headsets that allow people to be immersed completely into a classroom. We can manipulate items and teaching all the different elements of the teaching environment. But we're also moving forward with another pilot that has been rapidly expanded to, in essence, 2 full classes, and that's using virtual reality patient care. Now, these are called lifelike rehearsals because it gives us an opportunity to teach those things that we otherwise can't do in front of living patients at this point. And it gives us a mechanism to be able to measure the outcomes. So I'm very excited about this because it's the next generation of education, and we're right in the middle of it right now. We have shifted to something called Exam Monitor, and that allows us to actually give all of our written exams in a window of 12 hours so the students can choose when to take it. We call this test at your convenience. And so if a student has family obligations from 9 till noon and they want to sign on at 12:30 or 1 o'clock, they can do that. If they want to take the exam at 10 p.m. because all the kids are in bed, they can do that. It's actually worked out so well for us that we are going to continue this even when we're full-time back on campus for many of our exams, because in reality, this mirrors the board exams. The board exams are given at different times, and people can choose the time they want to go to on a specific day. So it's similar to that. We've created standardized patient encounters using virtual tools that actually has captured some national attention, doing telehealth visits for clerkships using standardized patients. This will be another thing that we continue to do, and we have currently engaged all of our clerkship directors to develop these for every one of our core clerkships in the 3rd year. So students will be actually calling in to take care of patients at various times, including being on the floor, taking care of somebody in a hospital. They may actually get a call from us, from a standardized patient, saying, you know, I have some belly pain and this is going on. Can you help me out? So they can engage just like we normally would. We have increased and actually challenged our interprofessional education series in a way that has expanded it very rapidly to include, particularly in our art, observation, and medicine course, our PsyD program. The 2 leaders of these programs, both Dr. Cruzy and Dr. Getch, are really champions when it comes to interprofessional education, and they are moving us forward. All of this is happening during this COVID crisis, so we are accelerating the things that we began to plan out over years to develop. And then the last thing is we are specifically identifying components of the education that must be done face-to-face and those that we can extract and do in a different environment, like the lifelike learning, lifelike rehearsal environment. In the fall, due to the crisis and based on the things that we have pioneered, we are actually going to change our delivery format to live and recorded and large and small room virtual learning. We're doing this because if a second wave hits us hard enough that we have to close campus, we will not have to go to emergency remote teaching. So by design, we are creating live lectures, some recorded, and laboratory as best we can in a virtual world so that it can all be delivered in case we can't be on campus. Should we be able to get on campus, and even through the staging process of the reopening, we can continue to move in and out of this environment without losing a step. So we will be 100% on track. Nobody will be left behind. And as we begin our laboratories, we'll be able to increase the number of face-to-face contacts as it becomes safe. We will, the other thing that we are moving toward is for the first semester, we are not going to be doing cadaveric dissections. We have invested in 3 different technologies. One of them is a very important technology in the CMEI building, and that is an augmented reality ultrasound and anatomy trainer that allows us to teach all of the students in real time about normal and pathologic anatomy. We're also using a virtual dissector and another tool that allows the students to study online with faculty. So we're very excited about this as well. Couple of things about clinical education. On 5/4, Dr. Bruce Williams went from a 50% FTE to full-time. He has taken over as the Associate Dean of Clinical Education and is a direct link to one of our strongest supporting systems out there, and that is the HCA system. He has picked up the reins from Dr. Cox as Dr. Cox moved into the campus dean position, and he has not missed a beat. And we're very proud of the work that he's doing, and we continue to see some great work coming from him. As a reminder, on March 16th, all of our students were pulled off of clerkships and the campus was closed. But what's important here is that the students are going to start their core rotations again in July. We're asking all students, first and second years, to be in their on their campus locations, so to move to either Kansas City or to Joplin. And our core rotations for the third years, the students will be in place by July 13th as well. We've created remote and distant learning that in case a hospital has to shut down, a student will be able to continue with their clerkships without missing a beat. Although it will be virtual, they will actually be meeting the requirements that we need in order to give them credit for that rotation, as well as measure their outcomes so that we understand that they know what they're doing before moving on. One thing that is interesting is that the scheduling of fourth-year rotations and audition rotations has been what I call critically injured this year based on the COVID crisis. And in the beginning, it was actually a problem because as COVID hit, every medical student in the country decided to apply for many multiple rotations in hospitals, some in the hundreds of applications, and it completely overwhelmed the system. So the system had to shut down, and that is a system that essentially creates a fairness of applications for rotations around the country. What's happening now is the new model is allowing all students to have experiences, but it's being limited because the residencies don't want to expose their patients and their staff and their faculty to COVID. And so as a public health measure, they're limiting travel. So this is actually the one thing that is the biggest challenge for us, as is all medical schools, is being able to create an environment that allows students to do auditions for residencies. Now, the good thing is most residency directors have said, we're not going to require an audition rotation as long as they're able to get a rotation and a letter from somebody in our field, is essentially where we're at. So there'll be more to talk about with this as we learn more about it. Wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up on our residency match. We did a great job this year. This was the first time we had a combined match. So as you all know, the osteopathic residencies have all been converted into and applied for to ACGME accreditation. And for those programs that moved into the ACGME, it became an amalgam of what previously were two separate matches. So our class put 267 people in, and we had a 97.75 match rate. We did have 6 students that did not match, but our current placement rate, which is actually the number of students that have gotten into residencies, is actually almost 99% right now. We have 3 that are pending, all have interviewed, and all have are most likely going to be getting in sometime over the next 2 weeks into residencies, which will put this number into the 100% placement rate. The important thing, there are a couple of important things here. The first is the national average was actually 90.7% match rate. So we did very well. Our primary care specialties went up. We're at about 55% of our residents, our graduates went into primary care specialties. Here is a distribution. I won't read them all, but as you take a look at this, please keep in mind that in many of these, some of the best programs in the country now have our students. Very, very significant placements, very important, a very good match rate, and very smart kids going to very good residencies. So we're very proud of our graduates. A little bit more on the national data in case anybody was wondering. The overall position fill rate, all comers, MDs, DOs, international grads, was only 94.6%. There were 37,256 positions that were available. And there were about 2,000 students, 2,000 positions that did not match. Going into what's called the SOAP, which is the supplemental program that allows us to go for students who have not matched, to go for residency positions that are opened, saw almost all the positions fill with the exception of 311 positions. And that was overall a 99% match rate within the entire system. If we take a look at this graphic, it shows you where the biggest problem in the United States is right now. And that is the total number of applicants and the gap between the total number of applicants and the total number of positions that are available. Now, some of you are noticing that this says 45,000, and I just told you, or I'm about to tell you, there were only 40,000 that were active. This is the total number of people that actually put in an application, but only about 40,000 of them became active. So all of the numbers I just showed you are based on 40,000 positions, but there were 45,000 applicants that potentially could have sought a residency position. This is where our national crisis is focused. We need to make sure that our graduates are getting residency training so they can move forward. And thankfully, KCU has put together such a great program that we are able to get most of our graduates in on the first round, and we have been very successful placing those people who have not successfully matched into residencies within a year. A little bit more, there's the 40,000 I just told you about. 34,000 and change were actually first-year positions, and almost 3,000 of them were second-year positions that you have to apply to through the match. We had the osteopathic profession, 6,581 students go into it, and the overall match rate for PGY1 positions was 90.7%. Again, we did very well with almost 98% placement. A little bit on the CMEI building. You heard from Dr. Hahn, some of the tools that we'll have in there. To expand that list just a little bit, we have virtual reality in 2 different places, a fully immersive classroom, which is technology that KCU is actually developing. It does not exist anywhere else. We're doing this in partnership with engineers from another institution, the University of Illinois. And as a partnership, we're developing something that, in my opinion, is going to revolutionize most of the education we do moving forward in medical education. We're also using patient care trainers, which are going to help in our clinical settings, augmented and mixed reality, high fidelity simulation with the most up-to-date mannequins, human patient simulation, and telemedicine. All of these things are now training our students in a new way to prepare them for the future of medical education. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it back over to Jane. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Dr. D'Agostino. We appreciate all that you're doing. And again, to everyone, please, if you have questions of Dr. D'Agostino, use your chat feature and ask your questions, and we will try to get to them in a few minutes. Now, let me turn this over to Dr. Robert White, who is the Dean of our College of Biosciences. Dr. White?
Hey, thank you. I'd like to extend greetings again to everyone who is joining us. I have been with the graduate school since 2010, but I did provide lectures in the medical school in genetics and hematology. First thing I want to share with you is something that Dr. D'Agostino mentioned. The College of Biosciences now also includes its first doctoral program, the PsyD program. And this is the Doctor of Clinical Psychology program. And I'll come back to that in a moment, but what I want to share with you first is that the Biosciences Master's program responded well to the COVID-19 pandemic in several ways. The Biosciences program efficiently switched to live synchronous distance learning during the pandemic. We utilized our learning management system called Canvas to provide live lectures to students. We also used different formats, Zoom and life-size. While these live lectures were being given, they were recorded as well. And so we developed a flexible hybrid system for our students, and it worked well for them. Some of the students left to go home during this period, and some of them were several time zones away, as far as Alaska and Hawaii. And it made it difficult to attend live lectures, so it was good for them to have recorded lectures. In addition, those students who were in a living environment where, well, there were a lot of people in the room when they were trying to listen to lectures, it was great to have the recorded lectures so that the students could have the option as to how they would want to participate in classroom activity. We also had presentations by our research track students. They provided their research seminars, they went through their public thesis defenses and research presentations, and these were carried out in life-size sessions. But in addition to providing the curriculum, we also wanted to maintain the academic environment that the students were used to, and we wanted to do that in several ways. So student support continued efficiently as well. Using life-size, students met with their advisors. I met with every student in the College of Biosciences. I do this each semester. I meet with all over 150 students in the College of Biosciences for 15 minutes to a half an hour so that I can get to know every single student. And these one-on-one meetings were still conducted by life-size during this period. I also conducted weekly life-size meetings with the class president of the BIOS class of 2020 to get a feeling for how students were doing and to make sure we could address any issues. So we used various formats and all of these different ways for student meetings, Zoom, life-size, and even FaceTime. We also had virtual lab meetings for the research track students to discuss their research, to discuss the writing of their theses and any papers, research papers that they were reading. Finally, the PsyD program also switched efficiently to synchronous distance education during the pandemic. They used Zoom primarily for their classroom activities, for meetings with students, for student presentations. There were also telehealth opportunities for our PsyD students for their clinical practicums. Kind of similar to the rotations that medical students have, this is where psychology students develop their skills as psychologists. But they did something extra. The Health Service Psychology Department, and this was the faculty and the PsyD students themselves, formed what we call KCU Community Care. The CARE stands for Cope, Advocate, Resource, and Educate. This was a non-emergency teleresource in which the PsyD students were available to enhance the well-being of our KCU community, including faculty, staff, and students. This consisted of conversations to help individuals deal with whatever challenges they were facing during the COVID-19 pandemic. These students were working during this time to ensure the good mental health of our KCU community. They were available to enhance the well-being of our community with these conversations. And in addition, they were able to earn clinical hours for the program. Now, as we look forward in the College of Biosciences to the new academic year, we realize that we will probably take the first month of the fall semester to continue with our real-time and recorded lectures. Safety of our students is most important. When it is approved that our students can return, we will follow CDC guidelines, guidelines from civil authorities, and our leadership at the university. Our expectation is that we will develop a schedule of 25 students coming to class in the Ricci Auditorium in seats designated for use that are 6 feet apart. Groups of 25 students will rotate for the in-classroom experience every week. First group of 25 and the second week, the second group of 25, etc. And our expectation is that we will have continued success of delivering our curriculum and maintaining the academic environment, which is also crucial for the success of our students. Our biggest challenge as we go into the new year with all of these new students coming into the Biosciences program is to maintain the support for our students from faculty, staff, and myself as dean. Getting to know our students and being invested in their future and success is an important formula in helping our students achieve their career goals. We also have an opportunity as a result of these challenges we face. We can generate a supportive system for students who may prefer to complete this program in a distance learning format. Since we've been successful after the initiation of this COVID-19 pandemic, it affords us the opportunity to expand our student population and to offer this program in that way. So thank you for the opportunity to tell you what has been happening in the College of Biosciences and what we look forward to in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. White. It's so nice to hear about all the things that are going on in the College of Biosciences and how it's growing under your leadership. We appreciate all that you're doing. So now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Alex Hopkins, who is Director of Alumni Development and Annual Giving. We're so pleased to have Alex on our team. He joined us in June a year ago, and he comes to us with great experience in alumni relations for medical schools, having spent many years at the University of Missouri School of Medicine and then at the Baylor College of Medicine. So Alex, you have a few things to share with our alums.
Thank you, Jane. First off, thank you to all of the alumni for participating in our first virtual Alumni Town Hall. If this is a format and something that you'd like to see continue, please let us know, and we'd love to continue reaching out and engaging our alumni as much as possible. We have tried to stay in contact and reach out as much as we can under the current circumstances, and we appreciate your understanding as we are learning the new challenges of this virtual world. We did unfortunately have to cancel some of our alumni receptions this past semester. We had a great event planned for you all who were going to attend the ACOFP in New Orleans. And we also had to cancel receptions at KAOM, MAOPS, and AAO. Unfortunately and regrettably, we are going to have to cancel this fall's homecoming celebration on campus. While it won't physically happen on the campus, we are working on some creative virtual plans that include a Zoom reunion gatherings, virtual CME, virtual alumni awards, and PHOS induction ceremony. If you have any suggestions or ideas that you would like for us to consider, please feel free to email the alumni office at alumni@kcumb.edu. Lastly, the Alumni Association board nominations will be opening in June, and we encourage you to nominate someone who you feel would be a good leader in this role. There are 2 director positions and 1 secretary position that will be open. Again, thank you for participating tonight, and I'll turn it back to Jane.
Thank you so much, Alex. Before we get to answering the questions that you have submitted, I want to say a few words, and I will try to be brief, but I want to say a few words about what we in the Department of Institutional Advancement have been doing in response to the challenges and opportunities brought on by this pandemic. COVID-19 has quickly changed almost everything in the world of philanthropy. It's not unusual for there to be a disaster somewhere in the United States or somewhere else in the world every year. But this year has been like no other year in our lifetime. And disaster has hit everywhere almost at once. The coronavirus, as you know, knows no boundaries. So every organization throughout the United States and throughout the world, practically, philanthropic organizations are looking for disaster relief from philanthropy. And of course, KCU has not been untouched. We're so fortunate in so many ways, but our community also has been impacted. Many of our students have suffered, as Dr. Hahn said, have suffered unexpected hardships. Our plans to build on virtual reality, augmented reality, and simulation experiences for our students over the next 3 years has been accelerated, and Dr. D'Agostino didn't say this, but his 3-year plan turned into a 3-month plan, and that cost a lot of money. Also faced with the reality of this pandemic, the likelihood of which our world ignored to some extent, we have the opportunity to do something for the future and prepare our students who may be the ones who are responding to the next pandemic. So KCU has responded to this challenge and this opportunity by, as what Dr. Hahn said, creating KCU's COVID-19 Response Fund. This fund is established to support the 3 areas I just mentioned: student hardship relief. Our students have come to us with issues such as needing support to travel home, to care for loved ones, family members who have COVID-19. Unfortunately, some have traveled home to attend funerals of family members who succumbed to COVID-19. Some have not had the technology, the equipment to do distance learning, so we've had to help in that way. We've even had students whose spouses were furloughed and therefore weren't able to offer the financial resources for the family that they had relied upon, and therefore they were suffering from food insecurities. We don't want our students to have these hardships, so we are looking forward to raising support so that we can help them as best we can going forward. We also want to continue to support the technology needs that Dr. D'Agostino discussed. Accelerated is the need for technology that will provide both for our students and our faculty what they have come to expect from us, the very best educational opportunities. And we want that for our students. And it is very expensive, especially when it is being accelerated so quickly. And finally, we want to take advantage of the opportunity to bring on an accomplished researcher and instructor in virology and microbiology. We want to create the professorship that Dr. Hahn spoke of and develop a program that will ensure our students leave KCU equipped to recognize and quickly respond to any kinds of incidences like this pandemic. Many of you have already responded to this appeal, and for that, I thank you so very much. We are so grateful for your support. In just a few weeks, we have raised over $100,000 to support these issues and these efforts. If you've not had the opportunity to help us, I hope you will consider it. We want to raise $500,000 for each of these areas. We know that we can't depend on just individual giving for that, so we will be seeking support from foundations and other funding agencies, but every single gift counts. Your gift counts, and we hope that you will consider supporting all of our students, because all of these efforts truly, in the end, support our students. So we hope that you will respond to this. So now I'm going to turn it back to Alex, who will moderate the questions.
Thank you, Jane. And thank you for those of you that have submitted questions either earlier via the email or this evening. So our first question is for Dr. Hahn. What is the plan for reopening the campus, and is there an anticipated date for students and employees to return?
Thanks, Alex. Just as we close the campus in in phases, we'll reopen the campus also in phases. Currently, we put together an ad hoc committee that is referred to as the Campus Reawakening Team. The university has not been asleep. In fact, far from it. However, both of our campuses in Joplin and in Kansas City have been effectively asleep. So that team consists of administrators, academics, and physician leadership to help guide that process. In addition, we've created a new position, Director of Campus Health and Wellbeing. Currently, Josh Cox will serve in an interim capacity in that role to help guide some of these decisions. As we start to reanimate the campus, we're going to begin first with essential personnel, but we're also going to take into consideration two other concepts, able personnel and comfortable personnel. Well, what does that mean? Essential is obvious, people that are needed to be on the campus at a specific time. But what is the concept of able? Well, we found that many of our faculty and staff have gone home, their spouses are at home, or perhaps they're single parents, the kids are now at home, and folks we may need back on campus, but they're not able. Elementary, middle, and high schools are not going to be reopened until next academic year. So some people may not be able to come back onto campus. And then some people may not be comfortable. And what do I mean by that? There may be people with health conditions, or their spouse has a health condition, and they're uncomfortable at this point in time. So our ability to keep this virtual network of our two campuses, as well as some folks working from home. So for a timetable, we're expecting slowly to reanimate the campuses beginning sometime in June. Now, students are not expected, as Dr. D'Agostino said, to be back on campus or near the campuses until the middle of July. And at the middle of July, we're going to make some determination. And those determinations may be some classes, especially some of the larger classes, may continue to be online. Some of the smaller group sessions may also be online, but some hands-on laboratories may be on campus in controlled environments. And as we open the campus back up, we're going to be screening everyone, faculty, staff, and students. And what does screening mean? There's going to be online questions that folks are going to have to answer. They're going to have to be expected to self-report temperatures. If they are positive for the virus, they're expected to isolate. If they become positive, we're going to have to do some on-campus contact tracing. And anyone that comes in contact on the campus will obviously have to be quarantined. But we're also considering some degree of testing for both the virus and antibodies before people start to come back to campus. So we have a better assessment of where the enemy is. We have an invisible enemy that we're fighting, and the more that we can test, the more we'll understand, especially when students are coming back from all over the country, and in some cases, all over the world. We're gonna use science to guide us, Alex, and we're gonna set some requirements, but those requirements might be tightened or they might be loosened, depending upon the science and the outbreak in the region of our Kansas City campus or our Joplin campus. So we're going to be using science to guide us, and we're going to set some fairly strict requirements and expectations, and we will reserve the case to either tighten those requirements or loosen those requirements based upon what's happening there. So I hope that answers the question there, Alex.
Thank you, Dr. Hahn. The next question is for Dr. White. When will research resume as usual?
Well, that's a very interesting question because in some ways research is actually ongoing at Kansas City University. Part of research is the scholarly activity of our students perusing the biomedical literature for their research project. That process actually continues. Another fact that shows that research does continue is that every year we have our annual Kansas City Research Symposium. And this usually involves faculty and students from both colleges, College of Medicine and College of Biosciences, where students provide us with oral presentations and poster presentations. Well, we did that. We did that this year. We had a virtual symposium where we had several medical students, PsyD students, and bio students provide us with oral presentations. And students also presented their posters. There were about 100 posters. And the students were allowed the possibility of recording a 5-minute description of the research that was in their posters. And we did have our symposium. It was a terrific afternoon. It was very, very well done. So in that sense, it continues. But I understand, you know, what about the lab experiments? What about pushing test tubes, cloning things, and so on? Well, when we're allowed to, when students are allowed to come back, we will certainly do so in a controlled fashion in which one student will be present in the lab at any one time to conduct their experiments. This is to ensure the safety of our students in this pandemic. This will also necessitate efficient scheduling of the experiments in the labs. But we do have a plan for our research track students to begin again to collect data for their projects. Lastly, another important aspect of being a scientist is to be able to convey to others the research that you are conducting. And our students will have the opportunities and seminars to do so, and with their thesis defense committees. So research will be back this fall, and in some ways, it actually still continues even now. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Dr. White. The next question is actually for Dr. D'Agostino and Dr. White. In light of the pandemic, is the university still projecting full enrollment for COM and COB in the next academic year?
Okay, Bob, I can start. So for the COM, we have actually filled the class, and we are now working through, over the last 2 weeks, we've had a few people drop off, which happens every year. Based on our patterns over the last few years, we are exactly where we normally would be. And we have a very deep waiting list. And as one person drops off, we refill with another. So we are fully expecting to have a class of 432 students by the time we matriculate at orientation this year.
For the College of Biosciences, the admissions office, the faculty, and myself as dean, we're doing everything we can in COB to have full enrollment for the upcoming year. First, I can share with you that the PsyD program has virtually doubled the number of newly enrolled students for the upcoming academic year. That's quite an achievement. For the Masters program, as dean, I have sent over 200 personalized individual emails to over 200 accepted applicants to congratulate them and welcome them to KCU with the message that I really look forward to getting to know them, every one of them, in the next year. And in addition, at least one faculty member has sent a short email to these students as well, personalized email indicating that we look forward to meeting the students. Recently, there was a Master's Program Accept Day, and I gave a 20-minute presentation on different aspects of the program. There were 40+ students who had attended that meeting in a Zoom fashion like tonight. And the recording of that presentation is being sent to our accepted students to help try to get them excited about coming on the next year. In addition, our website for the College of Biosciences has been updated to indicate the success of the outcomes in our program. Many of our students go on to medical school, but others also go on to other professional programs, such as dentistry, PharmD programs, PhD programs, physician assistance programs, even optometry schools, and other types of programs. Graduates who follow a different career path are able to procure jobs in the biomedical sciences, in clinical labs, in laboratory research. Even academics. One of our graduates actually went on to serve as a professor of anatomy and physiology at a medical career college, Concord Career College in Kansas City. Ultimately, our success and our graduates moving on to medical school or other professional programs is in the 85 percentile. And if we add on employment by our students who graduated from the program, this rises to over the 90% range. So these are very important outcomes, obviously, and we must tell our story to attract students. And so the website has been changed to reflect this, to have all this information. Currently, we have 61 applicants who are accepted students who have paid their accept fee, and we still have 146 students, accepted students, who are still showing interest in attending the BIOS program at KCU. So we are a little bit behind what we normally have at this stage, but we are conducting and developing strategic plans to try to reach the full enrollment that we want. Thank you, Alex.
You know, Alex, let me chime in for a second as well. I think there's a lot of positives out there, no question about it, but these are uncertain times. These are very uncertain times. As I said before, I speak weekly with my counterparts at the state institutions on both sides of the state line. And they're looking at cuts that will be ranging on each campus of 40 to perhaps over $150 million. You know, they're very much dependent upon state aid. We're very much dependent upon tuition. And if we miss any of our enrollment numbers, I can't emphasize enough that will have a negative impact on us. So I am concerned. I'm excited. I'm very excited about all the efforts our team is doing to get the best students in this post-pandemic enrollment period. And both the deans have been working very, very hard to use new technologies to assure students that we're up and ready to go. But I'm concerned, and the concern is predicated upon enrollment. So until we get through July, I'm going to be just a little bit nervous. Okay.
Thanks, Dr. Hahn. The next question is for Dr. D'Agostino. Are there still plans to offer CME courses virtually?
So the short answer is yes. And we have actually not paused in this fashion. The only thing that has happened is we've just converted just about everything that we are doing to virtual delivery. We are actually, KCU is teaching at the Kansas Osteopathic Medical Society, and we are actually, I think it's June, actually my talk is on June 4th, but it's going to be, if for some of you, if you're attending that, you'll see a lot of the faculty from KCU participating in that CME event. We're also participating and working in partnership with MAOPS. But even our own CME is going to continue. And you may have seen in some announcements that we are actually partnering with MAOPS to deliver our CME moving forward. And so although the face-to-face homecoming is not going to happen, the CME events are still going to go on, and we're still going to contribute to the ongoing education, not only of our alumni, but of the communities around us, and quite frankly, any physician that wants to attend. So yeah, we're still open for business and planning on continuing.
Thanks, Dr. D'Agostino. There are two more questions. The next one is for Dr. White. Are there plans to offer a PhD program in biomedical sciences?
Well, there is the thinking that eventually we may add another doctoral program to the College of Biosciences in the form of a PhD program. As research continues to grow at KCU and there are opportunities that arise for our students to complete research that does have an impact on their field of interest, we'll become more serious and organized in that effort. So, Yes, we are thinking about that, and stay tuned.
Thank you. And our final question is for Dr. D'Agostino. How will prospective resident interviews look this year? Can a student travel for them, or will it be virtual? And will they be quarantined if they have to travel?
So I'm going to speak in terms of what we're expecting and coaching our students to go through, with an understanding that there may be variation to this. We are working based on some of the changes that are happening with the audition rotations to have students find a location and do the majority of their rotations in that location. This is in the 4th year. The students, however, still need to show off to the residencies. And so some of that is going to be difficult this year. The residencies are also trying to contain and mitigate the spread of the virus by not having a lot of face-to-face interviews. And so many, right now it's not all, but many of the programs have also committed to not doing face-to-face interviews, but rather virtual interviews. And we are beginning to prepare our students for that. We're coaching them, we're creating frequently asked questions, we're actually working with them to develop their style on interviews, virtual interviews, because it is much different than being there face-to-face. In terms of the quarantine, that's going to be an expectation if people are traveling away from a rotation. And it is going to be difficult to manage that, because if you think about all of the medical students in the United States doing away rotations, going to different sites, and then having to manage a quarantine, a self-quarantine, in light of trying to get as much education as possible in a site, is going to be very difficult. Many of our sites, we're in constant contact with them. We have weekly, if not bi-weekly meetings with our sites, and that's a lot of sites. We send people all over the United States to understand what their needs are so that we can help them manage that. They're our partners. They're doing a great job teaching our students. We do not want to lose them, so we are going to be very good partners to them and do what we can to help them through this process. I know 2 of the participants in the town hall tonight are actually on the board at the ACGME. And a lot of the information that we're getting from the organization is very helpful in our planning, so that we don't put our students at risk, but also maximize their potential of getting a residency. So many, if not all, will be done by the time we get to interview season virtually. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. D'Agostino, and thank you to all of our panel members this evening, and a special thanks to all of our alumni who are participating this evening. And now I'll turn it back to Dr. Hahn for some final closing remarks.
Thanks, Alex, and thank you all. I know we've run over a little bit, but I appreciate. I'm looking at the screen now. Looks like we have almost 60 participants, which is great. And we've got folks from all over here with us this evening. So thank you. And as Jane was saying before, or maybe it was you, Alex, this may be a technique that we use in the future, whether there's a pandemic or not. This is a way for us to reach out and engage folks in a meaningful way. I know that the whole world is changing from this pandemic, and we're going to do things differently as we go forward. Higher education and healthcare are both going to be changed forever. And there's going to be a lot of positives that come out of this. We're going to learn how to do things differently. It's going to force change to two industries that don't like to change very easily. That's healthcare and higher education. I think we're going to do a lot of things differently going forward. But alums of Kansas City University, I want to just say, once again, thank you for being here tonight. And these are uncertain and in many ways challenging times. The future is not going to be easy. There's no question about that. But as we look forward, there is hope on the horizon, and history has been a proven ally. Whether we're recovering from a war or a natural disaster or economic depression or a terrorist attack, our country has shown time and time again the ability to emerge smarter, stronger, more resilient, and in many ways more compassionate towards one another. We will, no doubt, come to understand many lessons from this crisis. What we should have done, what we shouldn't have done. But what we choose to do right now as a nation, as a university, and as individuals will shape what we become in the future. As for all of you who are returning to practices, please know that we are extremely proud of you. You're making a difference at a very, very important time, not just in the country's history, but in global history. Know that you are our best ambassadors. Know that your alma mater is always here for you, and that I'm extremely proud of each and every one of you. Good night, be safe, and God bless. Take care, everyone. Bye.